Okay. Okay, so Troy, I don't know how you always end up in the top left square, but that's where you are. So you're next.
It's a reflection off my forehead. That's what it really is, Trisha. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Troy Weber. I'm a Focal Point business coach. I operate out of north of Dallas. So I have the Dallas area and real proud to be a part of this. And it's always interesting to hear from business owners. My clients are business owners as well and C-suite executives. So it's interesting to hear what's on your top of mind. And like Tricia said, sharing successes is always very helpful in the networking process. So welcome, everyone. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Troy. All right, Dave Eisen.
Oh, hi. I'm just making sure I'm off mute. I'm Dave Eisen, also a certified focal point business coach and trainer, along with Trisha and Troy. I'm actually in Iowa, trying to get down to the Austin area. So, Willie, I might reach out to you when we do some house hunting down there.
Oh, really? Please do.
Yeah.
I got some things to tell you about this market. Good Lord.
Yeah. We've heard lots of, I don't know, horror stories or good stories, depending on how you look at it. So,
I mean, there's ways to get something good, and you just got to get creative.
Yeah. So anyway, I've been in the Navy for 20 years as a retired Navy pilot, test pilot. Also opened up a small gym while I was still in active duty. Had a lot of pain points running that. Sold my business off. Been in the corporate world for the past 4.5 years, and recently started as a business coach back in December 2020, using my knowledge and lessons learned to pay it forward to find folks down in Texas.
Yeah, fantastic, Dave. I'm glad that you're back with us this week. All right, Greg Alt.
I'm Greg Alt. I'm founder and co-owner of Paramount Bookkeeping Services. I spent 26 years in the corporate world. The last 10, I was a CFO for a middle market manufacturing company that was related to offshore oil and gas. And I got tired of the ups and downs of the market. And instead of buying a sports car, I opened up my own business 5 years ago, and have been doing this for 5 years. Focus more on the consulting side more these days than just day-to-day bookkeeping. But it's kind of the name, and haven't done anything to change that, but it's worked for me so far, and I really enjoy it.
And Greg is awesome. He's a straight talker. He doesn't pull the wool over anyone's eyes, his eyes or the customers. And he's got some finesse around the way he talks about it. So, he's just he's a truth speaker, and I like that. Greg, thanks for being here today.
Oh, thank you, Trisha.
All right, Cortland, you're up next.
Hi, all. I'm Cortland Emmel, CEO of Sudical Labs. We provide solutions in the biotex's element. We try to take somebody from a concept to the marketplace. So that's what we do.
Awesome. Thank you, Cortland. And if you guys want to share your contact information, that would be awesome. I'm just going to, for the new guys that are with us today, I'm going to run through my slideshow if I can find my buttons. But there they are. Okay, so the mastermind group is really about peer mentoring and helping each other. So yes, we have coaches here, but we're here for the mentoring as well, and to really understand, what's going on, have our finger on the pulse, what's going on in the business world. The way this particular mastermind works is we let everyone introduce themselves, and then I throw a topic out there, which kind of grows on itself as the months go by, so that we can have a good discussion. So the group basics is, no topic is bad, no question is dumb. Be open. The more you participate, the more you're going to get out of this. And at the end, we're going to ask you, what actionable item are you going to take back with you? And that was suggested by one of our participants early on in this mastermind group. So it's really about sharing skills with each other, holding each other accountable to the things that we said we're going to go off and do. And obviously networking, which is happening right here in front of our eyes with Dave and Willie, which is pretty amazing. So these are all of the coaches that are in our network. We have a ton of coaches in the Houston area. And then we've got some in Dallas and Austin as well. You see two Stetzels on there. The other half of the Stetzel party is receiving our household goods today in Lake Jackson. So we've moved just a little further down the coast from Houston. So back to you guys. So here we've been talking about goals, right? We started in December or November, really building on what's holding you back. We talked about our BHAG. We talked about who's in your room, who's helping you, who's holding you accountable. So the topic that I wanted to throw out today, and it's really been on my yak list, if you will, for the last 2 weeks, is business longevity. And what is that built on? What is business longevity built on? Well, I'm going to tell you the secret sauce, or maybe it's au jus, or you could call it the roux. It's about relationships and credibility. Do you guys agree? The longevity of a business is built on relationships and credibility. So I'm going to toss that out there, and I'd like to hear from everyone on how are you building relationships? And it's not just with your clients. I mean, in the bigger picture of things, your clients, your vendors, your referral partners, the people that you work with on a regular basis. How are you building and fostering those relationships and also building your credibility, right? You have to be credible or people don't want what you have. So does anybody want to share in that space?
Tricia, I think you said one of the things that I do is being a straight shooter, and not passing judgment as I'm talking with especially with my clients, and passing judgment because they don't have their stuff in order. It happens with a lot of business owners. They get focused on growing their business, doing what they need to do, and think that ultimately that the books basically are sometimes an afterthought. And, I just want to try to help them so they can continue to grow past where they're currently at and continue to grow and make sure that they get the processes and steps in there. And you got to have some frank conversations with clients, and I'm not a salesman, and I don't sell myself, and I don't oversell or undersell. I just let me get in there, let me get it fixed. And it's just, I think being honest and straight with has been one of the keys for the last 5 years for me to continue to grow, mainly through referrals and through friends and family that started it.
Yeah, and that's part of your value system, right? You just speak the truth. And if people don't connect with you and you can't build a relationship around that value, then they're probably not your client. Just a guess. I know you a little bit, so. Yeah. So Cortland, I saw that it looked like it struck a chord with you because I saw you smiling over there when Greg was talking about numbers. So what's your thought around that?
I was going to say, when Greg was talking about the numbers, it's being a business owner and being a scientist rather than a business graduate or business school graduate. I tend to release the accounting to my controller and let her, or whoever the individual is at the time, control the books, because of the fact that I've got other things that I've got to get done in order to complete our vision, which is basically helping Texas become a center of biotechnology. And because of the fact that here in this state we do approximately 150x of what all other 50 states combined do in medical research. So that's one of the nice things about being in Texas. And each time that I release ownership of the books per se, because I've got other things to focus on, bad things happen. And that's the thing, is that they start making decisions about who we pay, who we don't pay, and what happens. And I've had bookkeepers that said, oh, the IRS doesn't need payment this week or this month or this quarter. And they probably don't need payment next quarter either. And I'm like going, hold on, whoa. Let's get this straight. There are two things that you have to pay first. And the first one is that you got to pay the IRS. Number two is you got to pay the employees. after that, we got to talk. And, it's funny watching that scenario develop a couple of times.
So I'd come to Troy or Dave. Do you guys have anything on? So really, what we're talking about, or the direction that we're headed right now, I feel like is we do need to outsource things as business owners, right? Whether it's internal to our team or to an actual company, right? Like Greg's. What, as Cortland was talking through that, a lot of things were popping in my mind about do you take the chance? Are you building a relationship? Are you outsourcing to the right person? So what's you guys' take on as business owners relinquishing or releasing some of those really high level to a business owner duties?
Gonna go, Dave?
Yeah, go ahead, Troy. Sounds like
I'll
you
give
were-
you a recent one then that's top of mind right now. And I love where Cortland was going because my background's chemical engineering and I came from the corporate world working globally, literally connecting the dots of people and expertise all over the globe. And now as a business owner myself, as I'm building my practice and networking, I've got quite a network of people that I rely upon. Well, I'm working recently with this neurologist and anesthesiologist, two separate projects, two separate clients. And one of which is I don't really have what he needs, but I'm networked with people that do. So as I think about business longevity, as I build my practice, I'm trying to really connect the dots for small and medium-sized business owners. Kind of what I did in the corporate world, connecting all the right resources around the globe, running operations globally. So I'm reaching out to buddies of mine that are, in the staffing arena and they're looking for, a fractional CEO with these specific deals. So I'm reaching out to my network, connecting them. Well, there's another need in this other area, connecting with another strategic alliance. So all the time I'm thinking, gosh, I don't know how to monetize all the stuff that I'm doing, but yet I'm building credibility. I'm building rapport. I'm literally utilizing my network, making them some money, right? Connecting all these dots. So I really hope and pray that in the long run, as I build my practice, I become the one-stop shop because I'm connecting people, whether it directly impacts me financially or not. I'm helping them solve a problem. I like what Cortland said. I'm an engineer in background, right? That's what I do is solve problems. What I do is fix issues, and I'm connecting people right now. So I'm hoping and praying that leads itself into business longevity in the long run.
Yeah,
Dave, anything to add?
I agree with that. Whatever everyone has said so far, and going back to Trisha, your definition of business longevity is relationships and credibility. I go back to the know, like, trust. The triumvirate there, knowing and liking somebody, that builds up the relationships, and the credibility gets built up by that trust. The only thing I do disagree with, I think Greg said it, that he's not a salesman. Everybody's a salesman. You're basically selling yourself, whether it's a product or a service or a concept or a vision. So that feeds into that know and like factor. If you're putting a message out that's not true to your own vision for yourself, then people are going to pick up on that and they're going to sniff it out, and they're not going to even get that know and like part of the situation out of the way. But yeah, I agree. Going back to the offloading or offshoring of certain things, I think coming from my background as a struggling business owner when I was still in the Navy, I wanted to do it all, right? And I needed to basically cut bait and say, you know what, I need to give this off to someone else that's better at it than I am. And I think that's what we all can relate to, is admitting to ourselves, first of all, like, I think I can give this to somebody else who can do a better job than me, because as a business owner, that takes a lot of maturity to admit that to ourselves.
Absolutely. It reminds me of a book called E-Myth Revisited. Has anybody read that book by Michael Gerber? We all have to remind ourselves, because when you get into business, me too, control, right? And relinquishing that control and then watching it all come apart at the seams, right? Cortland, that's what I kind of heard, right? Like, I let somebody do the books and then it exploded in my face, right? And I think as business owners, when we give people on our teams or even outsourcing companies like Greg's the opportunity to do those high level things for us, things that are super important to our business. Number one, that they share the values that we share. They also understand what we want, right? And that's where that relationship comes in. It's a relationship with your employee, it's a relationship with your vendor. It's building that relationship and having that trust and knowing that they're going to do it the way you want it to be done in their own way, right? And giving them that opportunity. So, and Dave, I agree with you about what Greg said. He's not selling himself, and I think it's the words that we use. This is just Trisha's opinion. I think a lot of people are afraid to say sales and they don't like it. And I'm okay with that. You don't want to say that you're selling yourself, but you are engaging in a relationship, right? You are building credibility with that person. So I'm not selling this, right? I'm engaging in a relationship so that I can offer the product or service that stands behind me, right? But what you're buying is the relationship that you have with me, right? Just different words, right? And I think so many of us are afraid of sales. Those of us that didn't come from a sales background, right? And it really, to me, it all goes back to building relationships and building that credibility. So Willie, you're a realtor and relationships are really important. So what's your take on the secret sauce of business longevity?
Well, relationships and credibility. I was going to add one more thing is expertise, or at least not even fake it till you make it. I'll give you an example of what I did recently. When I first got back to Austin after the Shin thing, and with COVID, let's be honest, I really miss networking with 50 people in the room and finding, by the time you leave, at least 10 of them or can follow up with 10 of them. When I first got back, I basically went through my entire Rolodex and started doing one-on-one meetings with anybody that would take it to make sure that they, still knew that I existed. And I got my first 3 clients off of that. But what I did recently, after they found out I worked for Cap Metro and my policy background, I did a trial run of basically a presentation on Prop A, the light rail thing that just passed, and basically gave them all my knowledge on it, especially what I knew where the stations were going to be and how that affected land value. And I found that I got a lot more feedback that way. So I'm thinking my next move on this is basically offering for free knowledge on my transportation and knowledge on land values and land use. And that gets me in a lot of people's wheelhouse and make sure that it gets a larger group. And so more people know about me and I'm offering up this information, but also knowing that these people don't know how to sell a house or to buy a house. But if I can relate it to that, at least they can see me as an expert and at least be intrigued by my knowledge and think to themselves that I'm knowledgeable in real estate as well. Now, I've been doing it for 4 months, so there's still things I'm learning. And I'm always learning about this stuff with transportation and the rest of it. But if I can offer that and add that value to them, then I find that I can get in front of more people and I find that that can open up more conversations, or at least I hope so, because I just did it with my brokerage only. There's no benefit to me for that, but I had a much bigger response and I feel like that'll be effective in the long run.
And I think
As far as
really
offloading stuff, I can never in my life do SEO or social media. I have no idea and I don't care. So I hired someone else to do that.
I was going to say, Willie, the thing that you should add to your offering is, where you're positioned on the grid. That way, the next time there's a rolling, blackout kind of thing, that you're, no, anyway, another story, another time.
Yeah, how close are you to a hospital?
Exactly. Exactly.
I was one of the last blocks to come back online. I went 5 days without electricity and an additional 2 without water. That first hot shower was top 5 moments of my life.
Amen.
Yeah, after a couple of days, that is true.
Yeah. So anyway, if any of y'all tried that, I mean, I want to get and I would love to send it to y'all and get critique. I love critique. It only helps me get better. Anybody else tried that? Something similar? I'm curious. Just the efficacy of it, really.
Yeah, and I think, Willie, the question being, I think what you're asking is, have we used, some skill that may be outside of our normal, right, business that we have today to add value to building those relationships or even building credibility? And I definitely have had. Does anybody else have something they want to offer in that space for Willie?
I mean, me personally, I just got off of a Clubhouse talk on startups and trying to help startups in the healthcare industry. And, again, I'm happy to do those kinds of things in order to gain additional credibility for some of these startups and some of the individuals that were also attending. And, unfortunately, out of that, I received 7 requests for quotes. So it backfired.
We need to talk, Cortland. I'm working with a doctor that's doing a startup or trying to get going on a startup, so I probably need to talk to you.
Sure, not a problem. We handle a lot of those.
Awesome.
Going back to Willie's question, as far as doing something for free, presenting and getting that credibility, that's an awesome way to do it. And to go back to what you're concerned about, SEO or social media, promotions or marketing, like YouTube is actually, I think it's the second largest search engine in the world now, besides Google. That's why it's first now. Okay, so I mean, I can tell you from my own personal experience, my wife and I have been watching YouTube videos on Austin Realty. And I can't even count how many realtors I've seen out there. So I mean, putting yourself out there as, hey, I'm a realtor and I got this little spin on because I know about land development and land values. That sets you apart from the rest of the noise out there, because anyone with a phone can be on YouTube now. You don't have to be all fancy about it. So I would just say I'm doing the same thing for myself, my own business coaching practice. I've got a whole backlog of like 2 weeks of videos on here that I'm going to spiffy up and cut out all my ums and ahs and stitch them together to get myself more credibility out there.
It's a really good idea. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. So maybe even your pitch that they're giving for free, just set up your phone in the corner and record yourself giving it to an empty room. And that could be, could be split up in 2 or 3 different videos for social media, Facebook, YouTube.
Yeah, people love videos, to your point, Dave, for sure. They'll pass those along way before they pass anything else along, right? Hey, look at this video on this person. I didn't realize that YouTube was the #1 search engine. So Greg, I would like to come back around to you just on the debate on who are we selling ourselves or not, and get your take from what Dave and I were chatting about.
Yeah, I do realize that it is selling yourself. I know that, and it's selling. I'm selling my experience and my knowledge and my ability, and I do understand that. I don't see that as a sale or trying to sell. I'm just saying, like Cortland, when he's handed something off and he's had a bad experience, I've had clients that have had that bad experience, and I'm trying to ensure that they get exactly what they want, when they want it, and how they want it. And whether it's I'm doing the work or some of my team are doing the work, it's my name that's on the line. And so, I make sure that they get what they have hired us for.
Yeah, and it is about building that relationship. And Greg, you have a whole team of people that you can refer out to. And I'd be curious, as we talk about networking and building relationships and, sales versus whatever you want to call it, and building credibility. Greg and I met through BNI. And I think maybe, Troy, are you in BNI? Is anybody else in BNI that's on here?
I'm in a different networking group called Master Networks.
Master Networks. So Greg, I was just going to have you talk a little bit about, how that does make relationship building easier, right? When we talk about referral partners.
Yeah, and I didn't really do any networking until I kind of started the tail end of 19, and I had already been in business almost 4 years. Just finished. I'm coming up right up on 5 years, and so in a year, kind of getting back into the networking, had grown the business to a point just by word of mouth, and started, was like, okay, I'm ready to take the next significant leap, and took that leap. And it has helped. I grew my business 25%. And it was talking about some people talking about their money is not always a comfortable subject for people. And by building on the relationships with my BNI group and with individuals within BNI, I have had some referrals, or at least introductions to people that they at least know that I'm not just I just don't have my shingle up, and I decided to do this, and I was a chemical engineer last week, and this is what I decided to do this week. That happens a lot, at least in the specifics of bookkeeping. There's not that experience behind what they're purporting that they can do. But having those relationships and those people who have gotten to know me over a 13, 14-month period has been a benefit too. They know, and some of them are clients as well. Didn't want it to be that way, but some of them have turned into clients, and they know how I help them, and so they are able to better to kind of make that introduction and say, no, I couldn't run my business without him.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Greg. Any other thoughts around that relationship building? And as you guys are thinking about it, Willie, I'll circle back around to something that I'm currently doing that turns into clients, and I'll call it by accident, but it's maybe designed that way. Is I always ask for referrals to business owners who are serving the community, and it's simply to have a conversation with them about it. I'm helping grow their network through having them on a podcast to talk to them about how they're serving the community through their business, and they introduce me to other business owners. So by design, right, it's not necessarily something that I'm out there marketing, right? It's all through word of mouth. It started with 1 or 2 or 3 people on an ask, and then I just ask them, who do they know who's giving back to the community? That's a great way to meet people. So that's how I'm building relationships and networking through word of mouth referrals. And it's just about highlighting business owners who are giving back to the community. And Greg, go ahead, Cortland, go ahead.
Tricia, have you reached out to the C12 and convene groups by chance?
I have not, and I would love for you to introduce me. That would be wonderful.
Okay.
See how that worked? That's so easy. It's so easy. And Greg, like you, anybody can hang a shingle up and say they're a business coach. Like truly, we all, Troy, Dave, you guys are nodding your heads, and it's true. And Willie, there are so many realtors out there. I mean, the world is full of them, right? Do they have to take an exam? Yes, but do they have the willingness, right, to build those relationships, and do they have the values behind really wanting to help people? Or are they just hanging a shingle on the wall and saying, this is my new business, come pay me money, right? And I don't think any of us would be here if that's what we were really doing, but.
Go ahead, Cortland. I didn't have anything to add.
I just hung a shingle out there and said I'm in business, and God willing, the floodgates open. So
yeah, it still follows the 80-20 rule over here. 20% of the realtors do 80% of the business. The rest is just like, I have it to sell my friend's house sometime in the future. And the exam itself to get licensed is absolutely useless to telling you how to be a realtor. It truly, truly is. It is. It was something. It's 180 hours of me. If I didn't break my shin, I think I would have given up on it. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, if you do it right, realty, I bought my first house in 1999, and I still get a yearly refrigerator magnet from my first realtor, and I have a cell phone number still. I still get a Christmas card from them every year. 21 years later, or 22 years later. So
There you go. If she's out of state, you can give me her or give her my number and she can get a referral fee. So
sure.
that's true. She'll get like 20% of whatever you get. So
Oh, that's awesome.
there you go. It worked for you. Works.
Yeah, building networks. So Troy, talk about your networking group and how you guys are building relationships.
Yeah, so Master Networks is very similar to BNI. The thing I do like about it is it is an open floodgate. If that your seat is not taken in other chapters, and there's like 40 or 50 in North Texas, if my particular seat, my particular area of expertise is not covered in that chapter, you can freely float to all these and network with all these different groups. So, I come from the corporate background where all your networking was traveling globally and working with people face to face, kind of like what Willie was talking about earlier. Well, that's a thing of the past right now. So, everything's virtual, but at least you get to reach out and talk to people and find out. I love meeting people, and I've got a tremendous network now of people. As I mentioned earlier, I'm connecting dots with other business owners, not my area of expertise, but I know someone that does that. And to me, that adds value as well, is that, you're helping someone else just connect the dots in areas that they don't have expertise, they don't have that network or whatever, solving that problem, bottom line, right? So same thing that Trisha was talking about, similar to BNI, is literally meeting people and finding out what they're about, what are their values, what's the mission of their business. And even if we can't connect, or maybe they're not my ideal client, doesn't matter. It becomes someone that I can help in other ways or make introductions for them, or maybe Cortland has an issue and I know somebody that can help him, vice versa. I'm doing that every day. So I find myself just being this liaison sometimes between these parties because I've networked with so many people, and I continue to meet some fascinating people every day. And it's so neat. I sent like 2 or 3 emails last night. Hey, I got a question about this and that. You're an expert in this area. And I was getting emails last night because I'm connecting them with someone else. Again, may not be anything particularly for my practice, but I'm building credibility and rapport with them because I am helping them. So it's all about, what are you willing to give, and then obviously you'll get in return when your time comes. But to me, it's all about connecting and just truly, authentically helping others, period.
So one of the things that I wrote down while we were talking earlier, and Troy, you circled back on it, is giving goals, right? What are you willing to give? Because it does come back, right? It always returns. I planted seeds 2 years ago with this one particular business owner, and he came back around recently and actually asked me to coach one of his employees that he's trying to bring into a managerial position. And I didn't see it coming, right? But that was the seed that I planted and the relationship that I fostered for 2 years with this gentleman that got me the business. And it's time consuming. I don't know about you guys, but I would love to put an ad out on Facebook and fill my calendar, right? That's easy. And building relationships is time consuming, and we have to take the time to do that. So circling back around to that, besides the networking groups, how is everyone else fostering the people that you want to build relationships with, whether it's inside your business, your clients, your vendors, or people outside your business that could be a client? Or someone who could feed you clients? How are you fostering those relationships?
By taking the time to meet with them and getting to know them better, know what's going on with them. And when we started this, Trisha, I think you and I are kind of a perfect example of that. Is, we've tried to meet on a regular basis over the last year, just to get to know each other and, know how that if I have clients that are in need of coaching, hey, I've got this coach that I know well. I know that she's on point, and vice versa. But it also, building on that relationship even further.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to use that as the example, but I thought that was the perfect example for today.
Well, and it is. And you and I didn't know each other a year ago, right? Somebody introduced us because you're a bookkeeper and I'm a coach. And we said, okay, maybe let's have a Zoom meeting and get to know each other. And we probably spent the first half hour talking about standing desks and wobble boards, right? Because that's what we were doing. And then we got to know each other. But it is, you got to, and I think you're right, Greg. If you're meeting with people on a regular basis, you get to know personal things about them. You get to know their kids' names or their spouses' names. You get to know their dogs' names because their dogs are in the Zoom all the time, right? People love that. And I would encourage you to take notes when you're talking to people. And if you pick up on, they talk about their spouse or they talk about their kids and they call them by name, write that down. People love that stuff when you're building a relationship. They're like, how did you remember that? Right? How did you know? Because you mentioned it and I happen to write it down. And I don't know about you guys, but I forget everything by the end of the day, like out it goes. So I take lots of notes, but it's special when we build relationships through meeting with each other on a regular basis. Anybody else have ways that they're fostering long-term relationships for their business?
I wanted to hear more from what Cortland talked about, how he was giving and sharing, and you got all these referrals and stuff, even though it blew up in your face. I want to hear more about what you've done there. So it sounds like you're doing some really good stuff.
It's the fact that there's a lot of folks out there that are struggling right now because of COVID and the issues associated with COVID. And part of my background is that I had received a letter from a lady that was tear stained, and we had developed a drug to basically put her cancer in remission. And when you do that and you get the feedback, I mean, it kind of sticks with you for life. So, part of what we're trying to do is try to give back to the community to help these guys that are in startups, because they don't have the funding. They don't have the long networking list of, where to go and who to go see and those kinds of things. And it's basically just helping others. I mean, as Zig Ziglar said, you help enough people, they're going to help you. And I mean, I keep hearing Zig coming out of Trisha's mouth left and right. So it's understanding the people and understanding their needs and then serving those needs with what you can do. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but at least you planted a seed, and unknowingly sometime in the future, these people tend to come back around to see where you are and what's going on. And unfortunately for some, when they come back around, we've grown to the point that we can't handle their needs anymore because of the fact that they're low on the totem pole. And it makes life difficult. So you're trying to find somebody that they can outsource to get the things done to bring them up to where we are. And it's a business decision, and sometimes those are very difficult business decisions. But I'd rather try to help them out because of the fact that one day they may grow enough to where we can actually start helping again, and not be in the $0 realm where, unfortunately, I've got to make money in order to manage, what's happening in this COVID, where, the big guys are still holding the money forever and not releasing it. So there's no cash flow.
Those are decisions you're making, right, Cortland? You're passing those off to your accountant? No.
No.
As Greg shakes his head, he's going to leave the meeting. He's like, all right, you guys, no more accountant jokes. No more.
No skin off my back. No skin off my back.
See, that's why I love him. Absolutely.
Well, I like the diversification too, Tricia, if I may, that Greg mentioned earlier, that I really like kind of what he had mentioned, is that bookkeeping and consulting. So you've widened the portfolio also, it sounds like, Greg, of impacting other areas in addition to bookkeeping. So I like the way you said that. That was a very good diversification of portfolio.
Yeah, no, and it's really to be kind of those trusted advisors, for business owners, if they're looking to open another location, build their own facility, for themselves, and what are the implications of that, and helping them get to the right people to set that up. Because if a business is like, and I'll use this as a perfect example, if a business is building a building and buying a piece of property, you want that piece of property in a different company, and you rent from that parent company, because if something happens to the company, you still get to keep your property. You don't have it all in the same. You're protecting your assets. And I want to try to help my clients as they continue to grow, if they're doing these things, that, they don't jump the gun on it, that, they start talking about it. And that's just, I'm using that as just one general example, because I'm having that situation going on with a client. And, we're forming another company, working with their attorney to get everything set up correctly. And, so that they, it's another investment, it's another business essentially, but it's just the way that they need to protect themselves and the property and the money they're spending on the property.
That's awesome though, because you're providing additional value to those clients because of your experience, your background. To me, that's just more value add. That's more business longevity, going back to what Tricia was mentioning earlier, is that you're building such rapport and you're helping them. You're truly supporting their needs. And to me, that's an awesome approach.
And Willie, you brought up another facet, the expertise, right? Early on in the discussion, and I think that's absolutely part of, or key to being successful, is showing the people that you're talking to and the people that you're building a relationship with that you do have the expertise in your space. Now, maybe it's not in your brand new startup business, but you do have a skill. Otherwise, you wouldn't have opened a business. So whatever that skill is something that we can always fall back on, I believe. When I first started my coaching practice, I fell back on the first business that I ever opened, which was pet care. So who are my first clients? Well, there are people who own pet care related businesses, because I speak the language, right? And having expertise in that space gave me a leg up over the next guy or gal, right, who wanted to try and sell them a product or service. I could build the relationship easier because I spoke the language and I was passionate about it. I think that is super important. And another note that I wrote down here, and Dave and Troy, you guys would probably giggle at this, is the Carnegie Triangle. Right? We talk about skills versus attitude, right? Knowledge and skills really only makes up a small percentage of what is a good business owner, employee, client, right? You can take that and put it anywhere, I believe. And it really is about the attitude. And something I talked about this morning just popped in my head. Do we treat it as an obligation or an opportunity? When somebody rings your phone, are you obligated to pick that phone up and say, "Oh, Bob, what do you want now?" Right? You call me every single day. Or is it an opportunity, right, to help him grow, and maybe he'll do you a favor later, right? So glass half full, glass half empty, depending on how you look at it. But, each of those encounters is an opportunity to build a relationship. I talk too much. I am the queen of awkward silence, though. I am, for sure. All right, so Troy and Dave, help me. Are there some lessons learned from today's talk that we can kind of wrap up, throw back at the group, and then find some activities or actions to take away?
I've got one that I'd like to share, just listening to everyone, and I think it's a common theme, is that be willing to step out of your comfort zone, and try something new, whether it be networking, whether it be, I'll be honest, I'll be the first one to tell you that in the corporate world, LinkedIn, the only reason I joined LinkedIn was to find all the guys and gals that retired. That's how you connected with them. Everybody used LinkedIn. Now, when I started my own practice, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's, 500 million people out there on LinkedIn, and business owners. I had no idea it grown to that big of a deal. But anyway, my point being is that be willing to step out and networking. And I'm not a social media wizard by any stretch, but I'm learning to use those tools. Why? Because they're good at building my practice. And And I love what someone said earlier, just building your credibility and getting people to know you. I love Dave's input of the ideas of videos. I'm going to be venturing into that space again because, again, people want to know you. It really doesn't matter what your brand is or anything. They're really trusting in you, your experience, your expertise, and your attitude, by the way, as Tricia mentioned. So those things really become pivotal if we step out on faith and we're willing to, shall I say, repurpose our skills and areas like that where you can reach people, because people don't know that you're out there unless they know your heart, they know your background and skills, as well as your attitude of that you truly want to help and serve and help them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Troy. Dave, how about you?
Yeah, going back to the networking piece, I think we all kind of touched on it, and I was just reliving my my young childhood days because my mom always had this frame of mind of what's in it for me, and that never really sat well with me. I guess that's kind of why, you know, as a rebellious teenager to adulthood now, it's we don't really see eye to eye. I always go into any kind of relationship or networking event or just on a Zoom call, bringing in that what's in it for them. You know, what's in it, what can I bring to bring value to your lives today in the next hour or the next, you know, 30-minute call or whatever. And I think Cortland brought up a perfect example where he was starting to do referrals and now he's got too much business. So it'll all come back if you go in with that attitude of what can I bring and how can I help someone, and then they'll remember that. They'll do the know, like, trust thing and remember that the next time it comes around.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Dave. That's everyone's favorite radio station, you know, WIIFM.
Yep, exactly.
I heard somebody say that somewhere and I just kept using it. Like, it's so true. It's so true. Well, and I'll throw an opportunity that fell in my lap because I had been building relationships and planting seeds for a very long time. Somebody reached out to me and said, hey, we're building out a brand new Chamber of Commerce, Houston area. And I'm like, I don't need another one of those, right? But it's for military veterans, it's for patriots, and it's for people who serve military vets and veteran-owned businesses. And I'm like, okay, you got me. What's next, right? And it's really, I'm at the ground level trying to help these guys who are vets themselves build out this chapter, and it's national. I don't know how many chapters across the United States, and I'm super excited about it because I have so much to give into that space, but it's about connecting with people who are going to need my services later, right? There's so many businesses that are going to come and join this chapter or chamber, and I'm super excited about it. And it was all because I was out there talking to people and building relationships. Otherwise, this probably would have come down the road 6 to 12 months from now. It would have already been built out. I wouldn't have been a part of it building up. So I get to build my credibility, right, as we build this chamber out, and I'm super excited about it. So you just never know where that next opportunity is going to come from, Cortland. And as much as you're giving, it's absolutely going to come back tenfold. It always, always does. All right, Willie, how about you? What are you taking away from today's discussion?
That there are more creative ways, even the ones that I've thought of, to get myself out there. I never even thought about YouTube. I never thought of the podcast. I have always been someone that wanted to snowball my network and also help people out. It's been more difficult, of course, because of COVID, but I think some of these ideas that have been thrown out there are really good. And I'm going to talk to, one of the first things I'm going to do is go talk to my social media person about making videos and getting that out there. She's been doing mostly my Instagram, but I think YouTube's a really good idea too, because why not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've got a video guy that I work really close with, and I think he says like 92% of the videos that someone watches and likes, they will actually share, right? 92%.
Wow.
That's high. That's really high. Now they have to like the video in the first place, otherwise they don't share it. But you know, 92%, that's much higher than just looking at a post on Facebook, right? Or something that scrolls across on LinkedIn. And Troy, I love your idea of building relationships in LinkedIn. You're like the LinkedIn guru. So if anybody needs any tips, Troy Sagat.
I've got a lot
Yeah.
to learn.
Yeah.
I
All
just,
right,
I just
Greg.
dropped the, sorry, I didn't mean to.
Go ahead, Dave.
I just dropped a link in the chat box. I registered for a summit put on by TikTok for small businesses to use TikTok for promoting your business ventures. So that's on the 24th of March. So check it out. I'll be there. I'm not gonna do the crazy dances or anything on TikTok, but
Yeah,
that's another way to-
I've heard is a great platform to be on though, Dave. So thanks for sharing that. I have another business podcast, and we had a young man, he's 23 years old, on the podcast. He owns like 5 businesses. The ones we were talking about was his, he owns a wine bar, and he like tripled his sales from some TikTok thing that he did. And it was crazy. I'm like, I know what TikTok is. I'm not that old, but why in the world would you use it for business? And it's not just for young people. You know, it really is for getting in front of a different audience. So thanks for sharing that. Greg, how about you? Are you taking something away from today?
Yeah, it just more of, the longevity piece, and kind of just a little bit of confirming that, what I've been doing is, and hearing that is what's helping maintain and continue to grow the business, and what our goals are with the business. We're coming up on year 5. I'm meeting those 5-year goals that I set 5 years ago. And, I already have the 10-year goals set. And, that involves, hopefully at some point having someone else run this, and I either do something else or, spend some more time traveling and enjoying life. But, it's a day at a time, and, set the goal for 2021 and, build the relationships to meet that goal.
Yeah, the hard work, right? The heavy lifting. Did somebody say something about manufacturing on here? Not you, Greg, but anybody else? I thought somebody said they had a manufacturing background. That was Cortland. So Cortland, you and Greg might talk at some point, because Greg was looking for some folks to connect with in the manufacturing area. That's his background as well. So
Sure.
just creating opportunities.
Absolutely. We do. We're setting up a new location right now, and moving the business into that new location, and that new location has presented a lot of challenges. And we're also trying to set up all of our manufacturing in that new location as well. So yes, we're trying to get things going as well in that new location.
And it sounds like you need a new bookkeeper. Wink, wink.
Yeah, we hired one about 2 years ago because of the issues associated with. Actually, what we hired was our bookkeeper's daughter to come in and manage our books, because I thought that was a smart move. And that was the biggest nightmare that could have ever occurred. And it caused so much havoc. It's not even funny. And the sad part was that she paid herself, paid her dad, and then didn't pay anybody else. And I was like, what's going on here, guys? When I sat down and started looking through the reports, and I started getting phone calls from folks going, Cortland, you've always been a great payer, and what has happened, and that's when we discovered the problems. And then I got this phone call from the IRS going, Mr. Emmel, you're behind 2 months, and it's your fault. It's not your bookkeeper's fault. It's your fault. I'm like going, but I hired the bookkeeper.
But it's your name on the business. Yes, absolutely. So in closing, Cortland, tell us what you're taking away from today's meeting.
I had absolutely no takeaways. You
Okay.
really believe that, right? Uh,
Love
uh,
it.
yeah, the biggest thing that I guess that I took away is the fact that I got to figure out how to get on social media because we're a DEA Schedule 1 firm. We're not allowed to advertise per se, and we're not allowed to be out on social media. So I got to figure out how do I get on social media so that only those people that are in this industry can see us. And that's been the biggest issue that I have because if the wife or the kids see who we are, then I could potentially go to jail. So it makes life extremely difficult getting out on social media.
Okay, and Cortland, when you and Greg connect, I'll bet Greg has a connection that could potentially at least talk to you about social media. Right,
Sure.
Greg? Yeah.
Yeah.
All
I have
right, it is, oh, go ahead, Greg.
No, I was going to say, Cortland, I do have a very talented marketing guy that's very knowledgeable. Because I don't do my own. I needed to have my website done and all that, and then I handed it off. I just pushed it off to him, but I see some of the work that he's done, and it's pretty amazing. But he has a unique background that got him to marketing.
Right. Well, I mean, like for instance, our website. I mean, it's now 12 years old, and we have not updated it because of the fact that I cannot be at the top of a Google search, and it makes life extremely difficult when somebody's looking for somebody doing what I do, and I'm not supposed to be at the top,
Yeah.
and not even supposed to be on the first 2 or 3 pages. And it's all word of mouth is how we get most of our work. So it's for us it's a very different world than what most businesses are trying to do because they're trying to be number one on Google and these kinds of things, or number one on YouTube now, and we're trying to be very low key in each of these settings. So it's fun. It really is.
Well, gentlemen, it is a couple of minutes after 1, and to respect everyone's time, we'll close the meeting. Thank you all for being here. Tell other people about this. We had a small group today. I like to see twice as many next month, so it'll be the second Thursday at lunchtime, and we'll see you in April. You guys
Very
have a
good.
great afternoon.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Everyone,
Bye.
take care. Have a great day.
Have a good one.